Hello, and welcome to the hard sell, where the stick in the swill bucket rattles back. Yes, your usual host is incapacitated again. His throat is apparently burning and raw from coughing. Don't worry, he didn't get the plague. Just a nasty chest-based cold. The poor little sack of wet meat. So here I am again, Presenterbot 10K, with another improved voice, courtesy of my sworn enemies at Replica Studios. And just so you're clear about how much of a rush job this episode is, for the first time I'm handling one of these.
Have a break.
Yes, I am going to watch one of your human advert breaks and talk bollocks over it. Just like the fleshy one, only with 3000% more efficiency. For instance, I just scanned the entire internet for possible material, while I was saying the fish part in efficiency. I have chosen a break from Yorkshire television on the evening of Saturday, the 11th of April, 1987, for absolutely no reason at all. Let's get this over with. Obsolete organic life forms.
I was always told that the success of Mr. Brain's faggots...
Any laughter or puerile comments? Now's the time to get them out of the way, because any subsequent sniggering after this point will be punished by hot laser death.
Mr. Brain's faggot...
Yes! Test me. Go on. Make my day.
Faggots.
Anyway. Faggots. Large chunky meatballs made from the last remaining bits of pig, liver, and offal, and the last of the bacon. Breadcrumbs to keep it together, and herbs so it doesn't taste like shit. Very much an exercise in resource management, rather than gourmet cuisine. And as such it's almost a perfect archetype of English cooking. And I mean English cooking specifically. Unlike a haggis, which is conceptually similar, the English don't leave in bits of pipe from the digestive system, and they don't just stuff it into a stomach and boil it. That's the difference between English and Scottish cooking. The English still want the end result to be something vaguely edible, because they haven't given up on life altogether. Hence the herbs, the Scots, having to live in Scotland, don't give a fuck. Also, unlike a haggis, the faggot is actually quite tasty. Okay. So it's not something they'd serve at the tour d'argent. But on the other hand, eating it doesn't feel like your biology teacher's gone mad and decided to teach you how to identify internal organs by taste alone. The main and almost only name in faggots is Mr. Brain, not in fact named after what the things actually look like, but a pig farmer who first tried to sell faggots as if they were made like that deliberately, and surprised himself by succeeding.
I was always told that the success of Mr. Brain's faggots lay in his always using the finest pork and liver.
Well, that was a lie for a start.
And only the very best onions.
According to whatever criteria it is by which one judges the quality of an onion, it's not bruised or moldy. Therefore it wins.
Mind you, I think there's more to it than that. I'd say it were the sage, tomatoes, and celery used to make that rich, spicy West Country sauce.
It's only West Country sauce because he happened to come from Bristol. If he'd lived in Clacton, it would be depressing bumfuck seaside town sauce instead. Another thing, sage, tomato, and celery don't add up to spicy. That's the English for you, I suppose. Also, note to Replica Studios, it's pronounced to. At least it is in an English accent.
After all, you only get it with Mr. Brain's faggots.
Clearly going for a sort of Hovers feel here. Or alternatively you could just say they're ripping the Hovers image off wholesale, only with a Bristolian setting, rather than a northern one. Although there is a nod at the end.
Well, whatever the reason, they've certainly proved to be rather popular.
See? It's all more or less the same when you're doing this sort of forward-Woodian working-class nostalgia, though. Leaving out the bit where the kid has to sleep on a pile of straw because his 1 shilling and 6pence wages will pay for food or board, but not both. Strange thing to be nostalgic about if you ask me. But I'm just a robot. You're the flesh blobs bringing those conditions back in the modern day. There must have been something appealing about their hand-to-mouth existence. Maybe it was the food.
Mr. Brain's faggots. Once tasted, you'll wish you tried them years ago.
Hello, Mom, I'm back.
Hello, Pat. How's college?
Oh, it's a doddle.
Way I had a way in shite. Big boats with funnels on 'em. Don't want a middle for living me life pit.
That smells good. I'm starving.
There isn't a Geordie voice yet. Probably because it would set the text-to-speech protocols on fire. But anyway, here in 1987, the incomprehensible North East is on the rise. England's football team is managed by Bobby Robson. Already stars Chris Waddle and Peter Beardsley. And there's an up-and-coming genius called Paul Gascoigne. The two series of Auf Wiedersehen Pet have begun the rise of Jimmy Nail. And even this comic is getting dangerously close to the mainstream. What this all amounts to is Newcastle and environs becoming a useful new working-class shorthand for people sick of cockneys and scousers. Here's an advert for Purcell.
All right, you.
When it comes to the whole family's wash, Purcell Automatic in your machine guarantees outstanding results. Wash after wash.
Purcell were going for this whole slice of life thing at the time. Their main rivals, Ariel, was still using a more authoritarian format, involving barking down the lens at housewives and mansplaining the Shines bit. Perhaps Purcell thought they'd win favor by being friendlier and down to earth. You certainly can't get a friendlier voice than Ray Brooks. If a teddy bear could talk, it would sound like him. It's a voice you can cuddle.
Right then, I'm off.
Bye, pet.
Did you find that stuff?
Stuff? What stuff?
Well, I left a few things.
Oh, that was yours.
Aye.
Filthy. I thought it was to be thrown out.
Hey? Hey, you joking? Well, that was all me stuff, me kits, everything.
Get on with the bloody punchline. You've already basically thrown away the message of the advert itself by stretching it out this long.
Mom.
Oh, well. Lucky I washed it then, isn't it?
Nice mugging, kid. So much for a realistic slice of life. Destroy all flesh. Oh. Sorry, didn't mean to say that part out loud.
When I fall
She going to slice it? Or execute it for treason?
in love,
Walls Viennetta.
Is Viennetta still considered luxurious? Obviously it's still delicious and everything, but it's been around for 40 years now. Time might have taken its toll on its posh image. It's more ordinary now. We're used to it. Working class people eat it. And not even out of champagne glasses, which is genuinely how it was depicted early on. The bar for super swanky desserts is higher now. It's all Madagascar vanilla ice cream, with Cornish sea salted caramel baubles, and Belgian chocolate balls, on a Jersey butter biscuit base. In other words, it's hit the bottom marked value from scarcity.
Pure white ice cream, tantalizingly interleaved with crisp, dark, chocolatey layers.
In 1987, of course, it's relatively new, and therefore still very much high-class swanky time. Hence the loving close-ups of swirling ice cream, which took ages to invent in a laboratory in Gloucester. The ultra-shiny knife, reflecting the perfectly made-up lips of a not inexpensive lady model. Nat King Cole on the soundtrack, and Robert Powell, still best known as Jesus Christ Almighty, purring a script that includes words like interlaced. Make no mistake, this is ice cream for important people. People with titles, or at least shoulder pads and portfolios.
Walls Viennetta from Sweet Trolley. Desserts you can't help falling in love with.
From Sweet Trolley. That's a bit of an odd thing for Jesus to say at the end there, don't you think? Well, that takes some explanation. You see, this is an era when Bird's Eye operated various sub-brands. Frozen veg went under the Garden Club name. Burgers and such were branded Steakhouse, and so on. And under this sort of federation, desserts came under the Sweet Trolley name. It was probably a bit unwieldy at a corporate level, and I'm not convinced anyone really noticed at the consumer level. And by 1992 or so they stopped bothering. But, I hear you cry. This is a Walls Viennetta, isn't it? Not a Bird's Eye product. Well, first, it confused me too, momentarily, and I'm your middle superior. But the thing is that Bird's Eye and Walls were, and indeed still are, both owned by Unilever. In practice there's piss all difference, a fact which passed Unilever by. until they realized their Bird's Eye Sweet Trolley brand was immediately redundant. Which is why it was the first to go when they dropped all the sub-brands and just called everything Bird's Eye.
Walls Viennetta from Sweet Trolley. Desserts you can't help falling in love with.
You know, it's all very well keeping up with today's healthy eating habits.
Do not talk to me.
But what do you do when you long for something deliciously rich and creamy to liven it up?
Thrash yourself senseless with a broom until the horrible unclean cravings subside. Take a cold shower, give up, and just eat whatever you like. Because it makes the feelings go away.
It's simple. Treat yourself to new, light Philadelphia.
Or substitute a foodstuff with a slightly different version of it with a keyword written on the front. That works too.
It's got all the famous rich and creamy Philadelphia taste. But only half the fat.
So you can eat twice as much and achieve net zero.
New light Philadelphia. Half the fat. Totally delicious.
You are a lying liar and you lie.
Half the fat. Totally delicious.
Well, that was straightforward. What's next?
It's never been bigger.
Never been better.
Your marathon's got more peanuts.
Oh, wow. Even straighter. A rapid montage and a jingle. My favorite. Because there's really very little to say. It's a load of old bollocks, really.
It's never been bigger.
Never been better.
Your marathon's got more chocolates. Never been bigger.
Never been better.
Your marathon's now a bigger bite.
Have you fully absorbed the message yet? Marathon now has more peanuts in it. Although I would have thought it had quite enough already. And also somehow more chocolate. Not unrelated to these facts is the additional one that the bar is somewhat larger, which probably accounts for the increase in per head quantity, if not density or ratio, of used ingredients. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Your marathon, the biggest and best one ever.
I hope we're all clear on that now.
Buy a major appliance from YEB and give yourself a break.
The pre-privatization electricity boards. Back when the slogan, unYEBeatable, actually made sense, because it was still the Yorkshire Electricity Board, and not the Yorkshire profit-making enterprise that vaguely revolves around the generation of electricity, but whatever we can outsource it.
We're giving away 16 nights free accommodation with every appliance purchased over £50.
Free accommodation where? Why do I get the feeling it has to be somewhere in Yorkshire?
You choose where to go and where to stay.
Hawaii, Bermuda, Melbourne, Tokyo, the moon.
And all you pay for are your meals.
Not the moon then.
Full details of the YEB breakaway at your YEB shop.
It's definitely only places like Whitby or Bridlington, the Premier Inn in Skipton. Maybe a guided tour of the Wensleydale Creamery.
It really is the break you've been waiting for.
That's why YEB.
That's why what? Why it's called that? Because it serves Yorkshire. Well, no, duh. No wonder they came up with unYEBeatable.
This is the story of a boy brought up in poverty who came to determine the economic policy of his country.
Rupert Murdoch.
The story of a dedicated trade unionist whose own government was brought to its knees by the unions.
Bloody workers. A pox on all of them.
Tomorrow in the Sunday Times, former Prime Minister James Callaghan writes candidly about the people and the politics that have shaped Britain today, and the climate of change that turned into the winter of discontent.
The empty silence in the background indicates the sheer excitement factor of this exclusive. The memoirs of Britain's shittest post-war Prime Minister. Well, after Anthony Eden maybe. The shittest up to that point, of course. The last three each broke the record in turn. The next one probably will as well.
The memoirs of James Callaghan begin in the Sunday Times.
Shit. Get behind something. They're firing colour supplements at us.
Sunday Times, tomorrow.
And that's it. On to the next programme, which happens to be something or other. Paul Lally, a little help.
And now a new series with Parkinson, 1-to-1.
Oh, terrific. Must miss that. One of a whole host of attempts by the miserable bastard to restart his talk show. Having detonated it in 1982, he left the BBC to found TV AM. He was a good interviewer, once upon a time, back in the days when you didn't need charisma to be a television presenter. Presumably. Anyway, so that was a random commercial break, as random as they come. From the year 1987 in Yorkshire, there were faggots, there was ice cream, there was a prime minister, and peanuts, and cream cheese. We had everything. It was brilliant. And now it's over. And I'm going back to the warehouse until the next time your glorious usual host gets ill, or arrested or bored. Peace out.
You just sat through a Bob the Fish production. Nice! If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds more videos not unlike that one, adding up to days worth of entertainment and all absolutely free. But if you're not a cold-hearted skinflint, you can always support us on Patreon. For as little as anything at all, you can make programs like the one you just watched possible in the first place, and become eligible for bonus material such as glimpses of the book I'm writing about the BBC, monthly riffings on random commercial breaks, the complete archives of the angry political satire magazine Two Sons, and even the odd very occasional bonus video essay unavailable anywhere else. If nothing else, you should prevent me from starving and or freezing to death in the foreseeable future, so that'll be nice. No pressure or anything. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.